Welcome to Professor Game Podcast, where we interview successful practitioners of games, gamification, and game thinking who brings the best of their experiences to get ideas, insights, and inspiration that help us in the process of getting the students to learn what we teach. And I'm Rob Alvarez. I teach and work at IE Business School in Madrid, where we create interactive and engaging learning materials. Want to know more? Go to professorgame.com/subscribe, start on our email list, and ask me anything. Engagers, welcome to a special episode of Professor Game Podcast. We are with Sheran with us today. But before we kick off, are you prepared to engage?
Yes, I am.
So let's do this. By the way, did I say that name correctly? Sheran?
Sheran.
Sheran. All right. So Sheran, having recently joined Showcode, he is a key figure in organizing and delivering their hackathons and coding competitions. We'll be talking about that in a very specific fashion very, very soon. And he's taking the lead of their upcoming hack, Level Up Society. If that sounds like your kind of jazz, well, dial right in, because this is what we will be talking about. And they will be giving participants 48 hours to come up with something to help improve a pillar of society, of course, as you expected, using gamification. So, Sheran, is there anything we're missing from that intro that we should know before we kick off?
No, I think you've nailed it, Rob.
Sounds great and exciting. So, first things first, Sheran, who is this Showcode thing that we're talking about today? What do you guys do?
Sure. So we are a community of tech enthusiasts that help learn, compete, and show our code to get hired. We've got a platform that hosts hackathons and coding competitions, all in the goal of people fine-tuning their skills, people being able to showcase their prowess, and at the end of the day, find their dream job in tech.
That sounds very, very exciting. Plenty of people getting into that space right now, right?
Yeah, I love competition, right? Because it validates that we're on the right track. So I wouldn't say we're definitely the first of the spot, but I think we've got something unique that makes us a bit special.
I am absolutely sure that is what is coming up. So we were talking about this hackathon that you guys are doing called Level Up Society, and it's all about using gamification. Like, why are you doing this hack in particular and not just anything else? Like you mentioned before, and we can get into this very quickly if you want. You were mentioning that you did the Athena one, which is women, coding, etc. Like, why are you getting into gamification now?
So actually, we have a great person on our team, Aaron, who's our head of product design, and we did a fair bit of research in this. So to give you a bit of background, Athena is a hackathon aimed at women and non-binary in tech, and our most recent Athena was focused around the theme of the circular economy and sustainability. We saw around 600 people compete, 60 projects come to life, and they were all very unique. And I think it was something we were really excited about. It was our first time doing a virtual hackathon, but we wanted to understand, why was this so engaging? What got everyone to tick? Why did the brands who participate in sponsoring this hack, stand out so well? And so we did a bit of research. We're looking at a couple of things that come out, and it's what makes a brand great, right? We're looking at Forbes is a really good article breaking this down, but authenticity, planet friendliness, sustainability is everything people look at when they find a brand they love and that they want to go out and shout about around to everyone. So for us, we wanted to do something around impact. So Athena was around sustainability and circular economy, and looking at that and looking at who's our community. It's Gen Z, it's millennials. Well, what are they at their hearts, right? I think whether we like to say it or not, most of us are gamers, right? Not everyone will admit it, but 87% of people play video games of some form. We've seen that increase through the pandemic, and 50% of people who play games won't actually identify as a gamer. So two core things popped up in our mind: who's our community, what's important to us? Well, gamification and impact. And that was kind of the birth of Level Up Society. The whole idea, to put it simply, is to hack together ideas to make the world a better place. And is taking I think I've heard you describe it this way, gamification for us is the craft of deriving all the fun and engaging elements found in games and applying them to real world activities. So we've kept it pretty broad. The idea is to come up with something to make the world a better place, using those positive reinforcing abilities of gamification to achieve that. So yeah, that's a bit about Level Up.
That sounds fantastic. And in fact, just to make sure we're quoting the right people, I've said that, but because that is a phrase from Yu-Kai Chao. That is his definition of gamification. It's a great one because it dives into those elements like bringing it outside of the sphere of games for other productive activities, as he says. I do think it's a great definition. And again, feel free to use it. I'm sure he'll be happy to be quoted in that sense. And it sounds like a very exciting thing, like thinking of using gamification to do something great for society, especially when you're within this community of people who are coding or learning how to code. Like, what are the kinds of people who are going to be in this hackathon?
Well, it's something for everyone, right? So we don't restrict it to any particular type of individual. Our Athenians will be there, so we have around 650 of that community participating. Our Unicoder community will also be there, which are university students. But ultimately, anyone looking up to level up society or their skills is invited. So it's open to everyone. We're not limiting it to any particular group of people.
But again, there's typically sort of a profile that you're looking for, or a variety of people within a team. I don't know, like if you were, if I told you, look, I can put you in front of the perfect audience, who that audience is, who would perhaps be those, top of mind people that you're looking for?
So I think there's 5 types of people there's 5 types of roles that come out in a hackathon. And if these kind of appeal to you, then I think this is right up your alley. So you've got your project planners, right? People who know how to take something from ideation, get all the right different moving parts together and help execute that. You have your designers, people who love to bring wild ideas to life, visualize it, think about the user experience. You've got front-end developers, back-end developers, and then my favorite is you've got your people with domain expertise. So people who know a problem they really want to solve. They might not have all the skill set to do it, but they know all about the ins and outs of that problem. Yet again, it's really interesting, right? Because when we're looking at this event, we're looking at who are the types of people attending it. We have people from all around the world. I think we have around people from 40 different countries competing, around 130 different universities, 80 different companies. There isn't like this one type of person. I think the theme that comes out is they just want to make the world a better place. And I know that that's very broad, but hopefully that gives you a bit of insight into the types of people that are attending.
Yeah, no, actually having those profiles a bit clearer, it makes a lot of sense. I'm sure many people in the audience will be, at least curious about what's going on, like what's happening in there. And you mentioned like, oh, everybody likes games and, we're all in a way, many of us are gamers. From this audience, and we've heard it from previous guests, we've all heard the phrase, I hate games. I never play. That's for kids. This is a serious place. And I don't mean to be demeaning in that sense, but it's typically of a person who is not being exposed to maybe the right type of games or hasn't realized many of the games that they like, because sports, big news, sports are games. And that's what they're all about. There's competition. There's, winning over other people, there's teams, there's all the elements of games are present definitely in a sport. It has its own rules. If somebody comes in and tries to play, football, soccer, and tries to grab the ball with their hands, you're out because that's not the way you're supposed to do it. Even though that would be definitely the easiest way to achieve your objective, getting it into the goal, right? But, you can't do it because that's part of the rules. You're inside a play space. So, I just wanted to comment on that and then realize that, again, all the types of people that you could have here. And again, they might have some interest in piquing of their interest into gamification specifically, or perhaps, the easy way to put it for some other people as well is saying, well, you probably like games a lot. Do you think, games can be something other than entertainment? And the answer is definitely yes, but it's about opening minds up to that as well. And probably all of those profiles might be trying to, sort of come up with ideas and do different things around that. And you mentioned, I think you did mention it already, but is it free? Like, can anybody join?
Oh, yes. There's no limitation to entering, completely free event. Anyone can join.
Sure. So anybody from any part in the world, of course, there will be some sessions and some things prior to the hackathon itself where, you might want to consider that as well for your time zone, whatever that looks like. But, it's open to anybody in the world. And how does that interaction happen? Like, can I grab a team and I say, oh, I'm going to register a team. I'm in Spain. This other person here is in India. This other person here is in Argentina. and then we have another friend who's in Japan. Can we register a team? Does that make any sense?
That makes perfect sense, right? And that's a great point you've raised up. So the teams can be internationally distributed. The team that won Athena last year, or not last year, last season, they had members from India, members from Canada, members from the UK, I think somebody from Hong Kong as well. So you had a very interesting distribution around the world. And you can come with the team. If you don't have a team, we have our Discord channel where you're able to kind of find a team. And so what we do is a bit of matchmaking for you. We look at what type of roles you're interested in, what your time zone is, how confident you are with your abilities, and we match it accordingly so everyone has the right different roles needed. So you don't need to know how to code, you don't need to know how to design, you just need to want to make the world a better place, and we'll help with the rest of that. And then you mentioned something. So yes, the event, all the timing will be following British summertime, but the week running up to the event, so the event's from Friday the 16th of July to Sunday the 18th, that's the hack itself, but the week leading up, so the 12th to the 16th, we'll have a lot of workshops, industry talks, power sessions. These will all be hosted on YouTube and a bunch of other sites, so even if you can't make it at the time, those resources will be there for you anyway, and I think they're a great thing just to look over because it's good for inspiration. It gives you an idea of different ways to approach the problem you're trying to solve. And, with the time zone, the only core things that come into impact there is just when the hack itself starts, which should be 6 p.m. British summertime, and when it'll end, which will be the Sunday around the same 6 p.m. But we'll be able to broadcast and let everyone know where they are on the Discord channel. We haven't had any issues hosting international events so far, so knock on wood, this one will be as great as the last one.
That sounds great. So is there, in the platform you mentioned that you had the Discord, so people will be communicating with you and amongst themselves as well, I'm guessing through Discord?
Yes, so we'll be on there. We'll also have our sponsors on there, and it's been really incredible how they've been interacting. So during the hack, you can go to ourselves, you can go to the community, you can go to sponsors, you can validate your ideas through them, you can bounce things back and forth. If, for example, some of our sponsors might put forward an API to use or look at, they help with technical implementations. They can go and show you different ways to approach projects. So there's a lot of resources to access completely for free. And the only thing you have to do is ask.
Sounds very interesting. A good place to learn and to have an intense weekend and full of fun and doing and creating things. And, it seems like creativity juices are going to be flowing right there, right?
Yeah, that's what we want, right? And I mentioned this to you before, but for me, this is a big experiment in itself because our first level up is a 48-hour hackathon, but I want to see and take it forward in a couple of months' time to make it a much longer form hack that could be, a month to 2 months, where somebody would dedicate a couple of hours out of a week to take something from ideation to commercial viability. We want to help change the world. And so we want to make sure that if you have the appetite to do that, if you've built something during this hack and you want to take it forward, this is an ongoing thing. It's not a one-off event. We want to have this be something that you get to participate to kind of seasonally.
That sounds absolutely amazing. In fact, I was going to ask, you're talking about organizing this event. I'm guessing, you have some sort of commercial reasons behind it, but there's also all these, how to change the world kind of reasons as well. So I was thinking of what does that look like? Is this a one-time event? It seems like it's not. Like, what are your plans for the future? If you have any already discussed or anything you can disclose, and of course, what are you expecting to get out of this? And again, in the best of senses.
Yeah, so one thing we've learned from 48-hour hackathons is that you can take something from ideation to prototype. You might see something that's like a nicely crafted front end with test back end data, or you might see like a Figma prototype, but it's usually not enough time to get live use cases going through it, or being able to show your project in application. And so this is kind of the 48-hour hack, right? There's only so much one can achieve in that time period. But for me, it's also just to test the appetite of who wants to do something even bigger, who wants to take that forward and see if they can make that into something people interact with day to day in their life. And so, with our first hackathon, the goal is to get as many people excited and working together to level up society, and starting putting together ideas that we see the birth of. And as we continue down the future, It's to take those same ideas and nurture them and grow them into something we interact with in our day-to-day lives. And so the real test for me, the real metric of success at the end of the day is how many people we can help bring this to reality and how many people that will impact. So, we genuinely want to level up society here.
That sounds absolutely amazing. So thank you for taking the time to organize this as well. And last time you mentioned like the reason for using gamification is because, basically everybody is, or at least most people identify themselves in one way or another as gamers. And this is something that could, be used by others. But you could have used like there's many methods out there, and I know one of your focuses is technology because Showcode, kind of thing. It kind of shows again that's a significant part of your interest, the technology behind this and the coding community. If I may re-ask that question, like gamification, because like what elements do you feel that brings to the table that without them you wouldn't have been able to, or you wouldn't be able to achieve the objectives you're getting here?
So it's a really good question. Why gamification? Right. For me, it's a personal thing because I've seen it in application. I've seen how it's shaped my behaviors. I've seen how it's helped me learn new skills. I was mentioning before, there's an app I use to learn the basics of coding. And, I'm somebody that doesn't have enough time to sit down every day and, study a couple hours a day to learn a new language. But this gave me the ability to, do 5-10 minutes bursts of learning. I had a system that, got me to engage. I had daily things I needed to unlock. And I saw how that, this created this behavior in me that I wanted to go back and I did want to learn more. And I could do it in my own time, but do it also repetitively. So gamification is nice because it allows you to do positive reinforcing behavior in a very fun and relaxing way. And I mentioned to you before, I did a degree in anthropology, and one thing I really loved was the people of Thailand. They have a part of their cultural philosophy called Sanuk. Just have fun in everything they do. And seeing that in application where people, out of day-to-day tasks try to make it more fun and exciting for themselves. So it's not mundane. So they are, continue to enjoy what they do. And I think gamification is the modern day application of that. It's taking these tasks that you may not, initially have been excited about, but they reform them in a way where you can engage with it over and over again. You feel like you're unlocking achievements. You feel like you're leveling up. So you got a new side quest you need to do. And for a lot of the people on my team, we've been impacted in our own day-to-day life. So we see it making sense in, projects that can help make the world better. And it's one thing to, help, gamify, learning to code, but it's, if you can find a way to gamify, better personal finance, or gamify better eating habits, or healthier activities. I think it's just the application of taking sometimes tasks that we have a difficult time integrating into our day-to-day life and taking the burden of trying to do that away. That's this is maybe not the best explanation, but for me that's why it's important.
Actually, it makes sense. It's one of the things that I always like to mention in my workshops, in my classes is, gamification is a good solution when you're thinking of changing a behavior, right? Or you're thinking of increasing the level of motivation. If you're thinking, that's the way I'm going to make a platform that's broken, be unbroken, that's probably not going to be the solution. But if what you're looking for is, people that are lacking motivation to do this or that, and you want to introduce that element of engagement, of maybe a little bit of fun as well, of, I know I should be doing this, but I'm not doing it. So I have this little push that gets me through. Like I want to learn a language. If I want to learn a language, I want to do it, but the daily grind and all the tasks that we typically have gets in the way, right? So what helps, push through? And a tool like gamification and there's plenty of apps. I use several examples in my classes as well that help you go through that. And I'm happy to know that one of the apps that you've used has to do with coding as well. It doesn't surprise me, but it's something that I didn't know of before.
Yeah, it's I think my first interaction with it was the language, like the spoken language learning apps, right? And realizing that actually that format works for just about anything. So seeing that being applied in coding was exciting. And then I was going to mention another thing that I realized I was impacted a lot. If anyone's ever used one of those health trackers or smartwatches, how that forces you to get up and complete your rings, or to stand up, or to breathe, or to relax. And you realize, actually, you're just looking at your watch and you just want to complete a circle, and you've walked an extra 5,000 steps, or you've climbed up and down the stairs, or instead of parking your car next to the grocery store, you've parked it all the way at the end, so you can just get a couple of extra points on the way. I really like that application of gamification to make you reconsider what you do on a day-to-day basis to ultimately benefit yourself.
Absolutely. And there's many ways of doing that, many theories, many ideas that we could get into. And I'm hoping that as well, you will help on those days before the hack. You'll be helping those participants as well understand a little bit better, what does gamification look like? What can they do with that? And of course, they will be using all the technical side to be able to build that prototype of whatever it is that they're building. So engagers, if you're listening to this, you're into hackathons, or you could be interested in something like that, this could be your opportunity. And Sheran, where can people go to if they want to participate in this Level Up Society hackathon?
So if they go to showcode.io, you'll see a big banner at the top that directs you to the Level Up hack. Alternatively, I'll provide you with all the relevant links to go to. But it's pretty easy. We have an Eventbrite page. You just sign up on there, and then about 48 hours before the event, we're going to just ping out a quick survey to get a pulse on everyone who's participating on the day. But if you go on there, or you go on our Discord server, we'll be able to keep you in the loop of exactly what you need to do. And Rob, I do want to ask you a question, and
sure.
I think it would be really good to get an idea of, from someone who has this experience and has spent a lot of your time talking about how incredible gamification is and its application of it. As somebody that is new to gamification, what would be how would you approach this? So let's say you're going to the hack yourself and you're trying to come up. What would be the first steps you'd take to coming up with an idea around something that's impactful using gamification?
Sure. So, I mean, as you probably know, I mentioned this to one of your colleagues as well. I do have an episode where we talk about like what is the process that I like to talk about, or the one that I use as well, with the 5 steps. So if the first step is understanding why you're doing this, what are your objectives, etc. So the first thing is, what do you want to achieve with this? Because many of these things, typically with the what happens, as I mentioned before, is when you're going to use gamification, you want to make sure that the problem is not, that there's not enough trucks to take away the recycled material, which was a big problem back. I'm from Venezuela, and that was a huge problem there. Like, you could be recycling all you wanted, like separating the goods, etc., but you didn't find somewhere to deposit, the plastic, etc., because there weren't enough, trash trucks or whatever. There was not a supply logistic, etc. So the problem there first needed all that investment. It was not only about the motivation, there was a huge thing before that. So if your problem is the motivation instead of, the infrastructure, for example, that is a great problem that you might want to see how you push into, or maybe you want to incentivize people into signing a petition so that something happens. Like, whatever it is, it has to be about taking some sort of action, or motivating yourself or others to take some sort of action. Anything that lands in that terrain, there are opportunities to be able to gamify. And the next thing I would tell you is definitely, whether it is, again, that episode I have and my process, or you guys that you mentioned at the start, or Andrzej Marchewski's, or anybody, you can look at a huge list of people who have gone through the podcast. They all have their process, their methods, sometimes the use of other people. Whomever you're going to follow, do follow something. Like, don't just only follow your intuition, at least not initially, so that you can test the waters and see, some sort of process that somebody else is doing. See if it works for you, see where you have to tweak, because maybe you have to do some tweaks, and use it yourself. Like, there's many ways to approach this. And, there's no definitive science, just as in many other things, but there are many different things that are already sort of on the table for you to take from there. So that's probably what I would say. Like, start by that. But, even if you don't start by that, maybe start by looking at somebody or understanding somebody's process. I'm not going to tell you to read a whole book, because probably those 48 hours, you won't have enough time. But that could be a very good way to start.
And if it's okay with you, we'd love to link that podcast you've done breaking down the 5 steps to our community at Discord, because
Of course.
I think it's great foundational steps, right? And I think it's the type of thing that will help our community greatly.
Absolutely. It's episode 107. And it's funny. I mean, I'm happy that people ask for permission to do this. I'm absolutely thrilled. However, I create this free, valuable, hopefully content for many people so that it can be spread out. I mean, the idea, my idea here is, I'm not getting anything from people just coming through my website or through, I don't know, your favorite search agent. I mean, the main thing is that people listen to this and take value out of that. And from that episode or any other one of them, that's like my small contribution to that leveling up of society is definitely, at least a part of it, is this podcast, so that people can be looking at the latest things, looking at what other people are doing, getting inspired. That is exactly what this podcast is all about. And that's why it's free, is right now free, will always be absolutely free. That's like the way, exactly the format that I want to keep here. So thank you very much for that.
I think you're being humble by saying it's a small level up to society. I found it immensely valuable these last couple of days I've been listening to it. It's given me a lot of inspiration. So thank you.
That sounds fantastic. So Sheran, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say before we sort of round this up. I know you mentioned the dates and where we can find more information. I guess this is a very good moment to repeat that information as well, before, of course, we say that it's game over.
Yeah, thank you for that. So just to recap, right, Level Up Society, it starts Friday the 16th at 6 p.m. British Summer Time and ends Sunday the 18th at 6 p.m. And the week leading up to it, so the 12th to the 16th, we'll have a lot of workshops, industry talks. And if you go to our Discord channel, you'll be able to follow all of that there. And I'll make sure that, Rob, I give you all the right links so it's easy for people to find. But look, thank you so much for this opportunity. And, we're excited to level up society with everyone.
Sure, it sounds very, very exciting. And actually, let's just slip in a final question, which is typical of the podcast. What would you say, Sheran, is your favorite game?
Okay.
The difficult question, of course.
It's not just because I've sunk around 3,500 hours into it, but it's Dota 2. It's something that I've been playing from 2012 till I've stopped very recently. I've got 2 kids, I've got a great job, and it's one of these things that it's been hard to separate, but it's something that I've been really passionate about for a very long time, and it's one of those things that constantly forces you to think over and over and over again. And it's one, I don't know if you ever had any experience with it, but it's something that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and I've made a lot of good friends playing it.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with the engagers, with this audience, and hopefully plenty of other people will be finding out about, this level up society through this podcast today. However, Sheran, it's been pleasurable. It's been great you investing this time with us and investing all that time that you're investing in creating this hackathon to level up society through gamification. However, at least for now and for today, it is time to say that it's game over. Hey, engagers, thank you for listening to the Professor Game podcast, and I hope you enjoyed this interview about Showcode and that hackathon with gamification that we just had with Sheran. And are there any future questions that you would like to answered on this podcast on Professor Game by future guests? If so, all you have to do is go to professorgame.com/question and ask that question. If it is selected, it will come up in a future episode and you will get your answer. And remember, before you go on to your next mission, before you click continue, remember to subscribe using your favorite podcast app. Subscribe or follow, however you want to call it, using that favorite podcast app, and listen to the next episode of Professor Game. See you there.